Catch the lore video on the VOD. Yes, sir. No worries. YouTube, we're here for the after hours of CRONOS: The New Dawn. So, we want to watch the story explained. We just beat the game. It's a little bit confusing. We're assuming it's about... Well, let's just say this. The main protagonist, or antagonist, I should say, lost his lover. Wasn't able to save her. Got really lonely. And in turn was trying to find a way to reconnect with her, and then... She thought it was about saving the world, but he was more interested in saving her. This whole game is heavily involving usually losing somebody, it seems. A lot of time jumpy stuff. It was a little hard to follow, to be honest. I don't think the story is as complicated as I'm making it sound. But I hope this video clears up everything and answers the questions that we have. So let's do it.
Installment of Law and Order.
This is Gaming Harry. This is YouTube channel.
The video series where I look at and unpack stories from games. In this one, we'll be looking at the story from Bloober Team's latest slice of horror, and that is the story from CRONOS: The New Dawn. This game was, in my opinion, pretty good. The story was fairly confusing though, and I went into this game completely blind, with the story being drip-fed to me. A lot of the background in the world was contained within missable notes and conversations, but don't worry, if you're not the kind of player that enjoys reading lots of things in games, then I've got you covered. As for the gameplay, the game was great. It was very reminiscent of Dead Space in terms of the combat, and there was good enemy variety. In true survival horror, the supplies were scarce but manageable with the right strategies, and the voice acting was superb. The atmosphere was on point too, with that being something that Bloober always seemed to nail in their games. Finally, as this is a new game, please note that there will be spoilers in this video for CRONOS: The New Dawn.
Time loop.
With all that out of the way,
I thought it was good. I thought there was enough variety to make it work. We need to leave this game knowing that what we did made sense. And I need this fed back to me.
A person in what looks like a spacesuit, known as a traveler, belonging to something known as the Collective, is strapped into a capsule. They hear a voice that says the Lazarus Protocol has been engaged and that it's time to awaken. Asking them to answer a series of questions, they are asked their purpose, and then after more questions, the machine responds that the trial is completed and that she is welcome to something called the vocation. This is essentially the purpose of her kind, their mission. Collecting a relic, which is a weapon that can shift itself to a gun or a melee weapon based on the situation, the traveler steps out of this capsule to complete their task, which is to track their predecessor's last known location. She appears to be on Earth and in Poland, judging from various posters and signage on the area. Entering an apartment building, the traveler sees writing on the walls stating that you will know them by their eyes and that the infected are inside. Finding their way into an apartment, there's a dead body inside, but the traveler pushes through and finds odd pulsating organic growths, which contain more bodies. Something scurries away inside another room, which leads to a clothing store, and from a sign, something happened around the year 1981. A flyer written to citizens by Dr. Robert Tyqua mentions people had been experiencing symptoms. Something had led to the downfall of this place. An epidemic, and people were advised to stay home. This place is known as New Dawn. The traveler gets attacked by a horrific creature and puts it down. What on earth happened here? Finding a voice memo left by the predecessor, he headed to a sector C31. Managing to leave the building, the traveler notices more malformed biomass made up from human bodies. Heading down the path and fighting more monsters, the traveler finds a newspaper mentioning a foreign virus, and that entire cities were quarantined. The traveler soon sees how these monsters are becoming strong. They merge with dead bodies and morph into something grotesque. Judging from a voice memo, these monsters are called orphans, and they've undergone a grotesque process known as the Change. Finding the exit, the traveler finds another voice log about the orphans, and that fire is the best way to destroy biomass before these orphans have a chance to emerge from it. This voice log was left by another traveler designated 2461. Back outside again, the traveler is now in the residential area. Defeating more orphans, the traveler finds a time oddity blocking the route forward and needs to deal with it. She uses a relic module which can manipulate these oddities or anomalies, and further on the predecessor 3500 is found. Examining the body, they find their anchor is intact, and they salvage the data from 3500. It says that they were searching for a target named Edvard Wisniewski in a sector D3, but that they never reached him. The Traveler says they will continue in their place, so the Traveler heads towards D.
You know, the weirdest thing is we never actually figured out what any of those characters meant in the very end. When we took them with us, it didn't mean anything. We don't know what it meant. We took 3 people with us, a father, their child, and some unknown character. And we never even figured out what happened to them. Yeah, like, did it matter?
D3, which is the housing project. She eventually reaches the housing project and sees a bright yellow light there, with this being what's known as a dive point. The building has also been heavily affected by anomalies. The Traveler finds the apartment number for Edvard, number 48. Ascending the block due to the elevator being off limits for now and hearing a strange voice asking where she is, the Traveler finds a key to a hardware store and on the way to the store sees a strange orphan. Much different to the ones already encountered, with this one being much darker and taller. Grabbing some bolt cutters, the Traveler uses them to open the elevator and discovers a voice log which mentions the previously seen orphan. It's described as being in a state of suppressed recomposition, and this person, another predecessor, designated 2461, seems to think that it's due to the influence of the time oddities. Taking the elevator up, the Traveler is even closer to the dive point. These are rifts in time. Before being able to reach it though, the Traveler must fight the strange orphan, and destroying exposed weak spots they manage to bring it down. Throughout the fight, this entity emits a voice, which appears to speak directly from inside the Traveler. A bit further on, the Traveler stands before the dive point. Synchronizing this time rift and transporting to a time before the building was destroyed,
We beat
the Traveler now
CRONOS.
needs to continue to track down Edvard.
We beat the
Looking
game.
around his apartment, it's clear that he's a bit of a conspiracy theorist, believed that the rumors of the Travelers were real, and people who know him consider him to be a crackpot. Finding a code in there on a photo of a woman named Angela, the Traveler opens up a safe and inside is a letter written by Edvard, which mentions that he's going to a shelter. The Traveler needs to go there next. Stepping out of the apartment, the Traveler walks past another apartment with an orphan painted onto the door and the words disease written next to it. The door opens and a voice accuses Edvard of taking their daughter, who is Angela, for experiments and filling her head with nonsense. The woman, Magda, asks the Traveler to reunite them with their daughter. Magda is blind, which is one of the symptoms of the change. Finding the shelter, which is just outside the apartment block, the Traveler finds that it's locked, and after a quick detour and a fight against another orphan, the Traveler finds the key. Entering the shelter, it becomes clear that the orphans have breached it, and the Traveler can hear someone humming the tune for Silent Night. Entering a room, the Traveler sees Angela there and asks where Edvard is. Thanks to the conversation with Angela's mother, the Traveler assumed that she was being kept there against her will by Edvard. This is not the case, but we'll discuss Angela and Edvard's background in a bit more depth shortly. Edvard emerges and recognizes the Traveler, saying that he knew the Travelers were real all along, and he thinks the Travelers are the government.
We just started.
Angela then, clearly tired of old Edvard's conspiracies, walks off, and Edvard says he wants to protect her, getting angry at experiments that the government has been covering up. The Traveler then does something to Edvard. She extracts his essence, storing the essence inside herself inside something called a phylactery. Now back in the present, she needs to start what she calls the Ascendance sequence and returns to the station, now being granted access to an area previously locked. Now in a large open area with a strange contraption called the Terminal, the Traveler places Edvard's essence into the terminal and begins the sequence. Edward is there in this strange place, which is the phylactery itself, and he asks what he's doing there. The Traveler says that he's there to join the collective because of his significance. Only by joining with the rest can Edvard make his own survival a possibility. He says the knowledge he has accumulated may be of use, and he says that everything went to hell at the city's steelworks right after the Traveler showed up there. A name, Artur, is mentioned. But before Edvard can divulge more information, things start to get sketchy just as the Ascendance is about to commence, but the Traveler says that something is wrong. A glitch seems to occur. They then pull out of the phylactery, but by who? Stepping out, she's in the same large open area as before, and she sees someone else there wearing the same armor as her.
You almost fried there. Good thing I was around. Now, how are you holding up?
Watching a breakdown of a game we just beat.
I have not suffered any serious damage.
So this guy, I swear this entire game hinges on this dude. Literally the warden. The entire game is you are being led around like a puppet, and the warden is kind of everything. Right? So I'm very curious as to what this guy has to say about that. Okay, ending, New Dawn, Steelwork, okay.
I am fit to proceed with my purpose.
Your purpose. I see.
Who are you?
The Warden.
He was explained in the game, yeah.
The work of the Travelers is eternal. But the tools that serve us are just crude matter. And so, the Collective entrusted some of us with a task to keep watch over them.
What a load of shit. Okay.
Do you fix things?
Or maybe that's not a lie. You fix things.
Care of them. Well, at least I did.
We don't know.
Before something stopped the Travelers' awakenings. Stopped the vocation. It's been an awfully long time since someone tried to use it. And to be brutally honest, I didn't think the Collective would send anyone else.
Can you repair it?
Do you want me to?
Yes. Something is blocking the Ascendance sequence. The vocation must go on. I need to do my part.
Ah, yes. That's understandable. Have no fear. The essence you collected is secured. It is the terminal that must be restored to its former glory. I'll get it up and running. Somehow. That's what I'm here for.
Needing to gather the other essences, the traveller needs to head to Sector A11, to the Steelworks, in order to find Artur's essence. She also wishes to find out if there's any truth to Edvard's claim that the Travellers were the ones that started all this. The Warden states that the tram may be the best way to the Steelworks, as it's quite a way away. As expected, the tram and the line needs powering up first, so after fighting many orphans, the traveller manages to power it up, and on the tram she sees another predecessor, this one being 2187. Establishing a connection to 2187, the traveller discovers another essence inside.
That's
Another
the
person
wife.
chosen by the Collective and stored inside this traveller's phylactery.
We found all the Marzeks, and I didn't bring her. I actually erased her. We found her, the father, and the son.
This essence belongs to a woman named Lydia Marzek, and the traveller can choose whether to transfer her essence to her own phylactery or not. Taking the tram and arriving at the Steelworks, the traveller begins her journey to the dive point. Gaining entry into the Steelworks, the traveller sees a grotesque mass of bodies in there. She also discovers that in order to get to the dive point, she will need some counter-gravity equipment. As expected, this place is swarming with infected, so battling her way through orphan-infested and biomass-covered tunnels, the traveller hears voices and senses that something is wrong. After a long trek through different areas of the Steelworks, the traveller manages to make it to the halls, and this was clearly a quarantine area for those infected. Some still sit in agony suffering from this disease. Unfortunately, due to the nature of this place, there are still many infected here. Passing through as they bizarrely do not seem to attack the traveller, she finds a voice log which directs her to the isolation zone, and there she will hopefully find what she needs. Using a master key to access more areas, the traveller passes through a lab which was used to observe early infected, and she finds the relic she was looking for, which she has to take from the dead body of another predecessor. Using these new gravity boots, the traveller makes it to the rift. Using the anchor and synchronizing, just like at the apartment block, the traveller reaches their temporal destination, a large observation area with an open cell in the middle of it. But now to track Artur. Following blood trails through some double doors, the traveller comes across a grisly scene, with bodies and blood everywhere. These are military personnel. They obviously tried to contain something but got torn to pieces. On the wall, written in blood, are the words, "Don't let them merge."
Oh,
Moving
it's
forward,
there.
the traveller encounters a
The
woman
dead
named
space.
Veronica Kaminsky there, who says that she worked there as a doctor but that she wants to try and find a way out. She says there was an outbreak there and that the workers never stood a chance. Asking why she is there despite an outbreak taking place, Veronica starts avoiding the question. She begs to be let go, saying that there's no one left there alive. Unfortunately for Veronica, her radio reveals that she is in fact not alone, and this person trying to reach her is Artur. He says he's found someone they were looking for, and that he's in the foreman's office. Veronica warns Artur on the radio, telling him to run before escaping herself. More instability renders the traveller unable to pursue straight away.
DCS, what is
After
that?
she recovers, she carries on as she needs to find the foreman's office. Seeing infected there and hearing gunfire, the traveller moves through offices and sees an explosion nearby. After a battle with an extremely large infected, the traveller reaches the foreman's office and inside she sees two men. One of them is Artur and he fires a shot at the traveller. The other man, who is Artur's brother Gabriel, is in bad shape and appears to be infected. Gabriel recognises the traveller, saying he came back. The traveller says that Gabriel's fate is set, but that Artur has been chosen to join the collective. Being handed a drawing of the traveller is confused. Artur then puts a gun to his head, blaming the travellers for what happened, for bringing the disease to Earth. The traveller can choose to save the man.
Did we do
or
that?
not,
We didn't do that.
and she uses on Artur or Gabriel, depending on choice, the same contraption she used on Edvard. Now back in the present, the traveller heads back to the station to begin the ascendance sequence. Getting back to it though, it appears that the device is powered down and the warden is gone. Hearing piano playing nearby, the traveller investigates and finds the warden there. He seems to be quite intrigued by the human race and that they seem to partake in activities such as music and theatre, with these things not being crucial to their survival, and that this is where they got their humanity from. He says he wants to at least save a part of what humans once were, rather than just saving them himself. He sees humanity as an anomaly, and he speaks of humanity's time being finite and linear, and that they were taught something different. Asking why he switched off the terminal, he says that a machine needs a rest from time to time. It needed fixing, basically. He tells the traveller to find a restaurant nearby and to switch the terminal back on and it should work. So the traveller heads into a deeper part of the station and gets the power online in order to start the ascendance. Placing the anchor, the warden says the terminal will select the next target, but he also says that she can
It's a
speak
flight
with the
simulator?
essence,
I don't think
but
I've
only
ever
for a limited
played any
time,
Sims.
as the machine may get a little bit unstable. Connecting, either Artur or Gabriel are there depending on the traveller's decision at the steelworks. If Artur is there, he is very agitated, but the traveller tells him that he possesses the answers she seeks, which is what happened to Gabriel. The traveller still has no idea how they are responsible for what happened here. He says they didn't care about his brother but only cared about the travellers. He speaks of a doctor, Zibert, and his experiments. Wanting to know more about the doctor and the alien that he speaks of, there's nothing the traveller can do to calm Artur down, and he ends up pulling the trigger, and this ejects the traveller from the phylactery. If, on the other hand, Gabriel's essence is there, he speaks of being beaten and blames it on the traveller and her kind. Pressing him on having seen another traveller before, he says they went to search for missing workers underneath the furnace, but they saw a traveller there instead who wanted to talk to someone they only called her. He says that's why they interrogated them. He too mentions Dr. Zibert and says that he's a good man, that he was brought in to conduct research on the traveller they'd found. Zibert also said that he'd healed the infected. He said the infected got transferred to the hospital and he talks about the pain, and that there's not much of him left anymore. He then either multiplies and rushes towards the traveller, pushing her out of the phylactery, or she's simply forced out. The warden says the terminal is not yet fully operational. They mention the traveller that was there and that was captured, and the doctor that was examining Artur and Gabriel, a Dr. David Zibert. This is the traveller's next target. He's in Sector A0. The warden says that is the hospital sector, and that many predecessors have fallen in trying to reach it. The gate to A0 isn't far away, and the traveller heads through it. Traversing the destroyed buildings by using the gravity boost, the traveller soon sees why so many predecessors fell trying to reach the hospital, as many very strong orphans are in her way. She arrives at a predecessor's outpost which was previously used by ND-1410. Stepping outside and a short way away, the traveller has finally made it to the hospital, and she immediately sees the rift and uses the anchor to synchronize.
It's a weird time right now, and a lot of people have questions about the future.
That's Steve
But-
Blum. That's Steve Blum. Cool guy.
Moving through the hospital, the traveller hears the voice of Veronica, and she's stuck in the elevator on level 3. She's not too pleased to hear the traveller responding, but the traveller tells her she's after David and not her. He has information that she needs. Veronica says she can give her what she knows instead, claiming that she knows a lot. So the traveller needs to unblock the elevator, and biomass is blocking it, as it's forming a nest. Veronica says they were working on a toxin there at the hospital and that they can deliver that to the heart. You'll need 3 formulas and they need tracking down. Whilst in the hospital, the traveller experiences more major glitches that shift her from the past and back to the present again. The traveller thinks that this place is stuck in between time and space. Going to 3 different parts of the hospital, the traveller manages to get all 3 formulas and mixes them together. Locating the heart,
yeah, we're trying to understand what this game, at the end of the day, was. It's a lot of... It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. I mean, this is just the plot of the game, which we've seen, to be honest. But we're almost through it, so we're just going to keep watching it.
Traveller then injects the toxin into the biomass. Trying to reach Veronica, though, it appears that something is up, as she's gone quiet and is not responding. With the biomass in the elevator shaft gone, the traveller jumps into it and emerges in an underground facility, and she now needs to track down Veronica. Cautiously making her way through the facility, the traveller comes up against a colossal infected, another dark biomass, but she kills it. Continuing on, she finds Veronica, and she's in front of Dr. Zibbert, who has himself undergone the change and has become part of the biomass. She mentions the traveller they had caught called himself the Pathfinder, and that the plan was to take him to the hospital as they had hoped he could be used for a cure. She says that she was the Pathfinder's target, but she doesn't know where the Pathfinder is. She says that she was trying to protect the Pathfinder as he did her a favour. Veronica says even though she was destined for the Ascension, she didn't want it. With Zibbert's mind quickly fading away, Veronica steps aside and allows the traveller to extract. With the target tracked and extracted, the traveller is back in the present and needs to make her way back to the terminal, but not before something happens and she once again suffers a glitch or a malfunction. Anyhow, stepping outside the hospital, the traveller suffers yet more hallucinations and glitches. She sees the warden along with all the essences that she's collected. She's hearing the voices of those essences too. Collapsing and somehow making her way to the terminal, the warden says that the essences are having an effect on the traveller. They are essentially fighting, and they need to get them out of there. The essences have spent far too much time stored in the traveller's phylactery, and they've now become bonded with the traveller, becoming part of her identity. If she tries to remove even one of them, her whole being will collapse, and they will take over, depriving her of her sanity. The warden manages to temporarily stop the essences taking over.
But we replaced some of them, and it never did that, though. Is that still bullshit?
But
Is he just lying the whole time?
Them. To get them out, the terminal needs to be properly fixed. The warden has tried again and again, but he's having some trouble. The traveller mentions the Pathfinder, and the warden acts as if he's heard that name before. She says she needs to speak to Dr. Zibbert, so she goes to speak with him by using the terminal. Zibbert is not there, but Angela is. She recognises the traveller from the bunker. She says that Edvard is safe, but they are both confused as to how Angela is there instead of Dr. Zibbert. Angela says she went to the hospital to find her mother and she got sick there. She met Dr. Zibbert. She tried to look for a cure there but couldn't find one, and the traveller asks Angela to reach into her mind and remember something. A memory that was not supposed to be hers. The traveller thinks that Angela possesses the memories of Dr. Zibbert. Angela reaches into her mind and Dr. Zibbert has taken over and is now speaking through Angela. Wanting to know what he did with the Pathfinder, Zibbert tells the traveller that the military were onto him and that the Pathfinder was no longer safe with him, and he needed to ensure the safety of the Pathfinder, hiding him away somewhere. An execution order was given to kill everyone, healthy and sick, patients and doctors. He tried to save Angela and the rest. Zibbert says he takes personal responsibility for leading the military to the hospital. Zibbert shows his regret in moving him from the steelworks. Zibbert then says that he had a daughter, but he doesn't know what happened to her. She has a different father now, and he mentions the name Eliza. Zibbert asks the traveller to find his daughter. Asking what happened in the steelworks, he says they failed, and they let everything slip out of their hands. Asking if the travellers were the ones that brought the sickness, Zibbert says that he believes the sickness was always there, waiting. Leaving the Ascendants, the traveller plots the course for the next target, and its mother, Eliza Zibbert. Speaking with the warden, she shares what she learned, that the Pathfinder's last known location is an abbey, and the target is Mother Eliza. Another tram will be needed, as the abbey is located on the outskirts of New Dawn, in Sector A25. The warden reveals that he's made a fascinating discovery. The Pathfinder is not just a mere traveller, he's the vanguard amongst all of those awakened to fulfill the collective's calling. They created the rifts that people like the traveller uses. They did not use the anchors though, they used great relics, making them much more powerful, but not only that, they are also independent. With that same power, they could rebuild everything, including themselves. And they could also upload the essences to the terminal
Let me listen. What?
But not only that, they are also independent. On the outskirts of New Dawn, in Sector A25, the Warden reveals that he's made a fascinating discovery. The Pathfinder is not just a mere traveler. He's the vanguard amongst all of those awakened to fulfill the Collective's calling. They created the rifts that people like the Traveler uses. They did not use the anchors, though. They used great relics, making them much more powerful, but...
That's the sickle. The sickle thing at the very end of the game that he gets. I've been lead since 2019. Well, you installed it because the game's fun. I've been here since 2015. Probably 2010. Who knows? Well, he's just summarizing the plot of the game, but he does actually go into everything else that we probably don't understand. My number one thing is the Warden. The Warden, I feel like we were literally led on some giant goose chase for this guy to basically say, hey, wipe your brain, put Angela in it, or not Angela, sorry, Veronica, and then I have my woman back. I think that's literally the game. Everything else is just hocus pocus, have some faith. I think that's what that is.
Not only that, they're also independent. With that same power, they could rebuild everything, including themselves. And they could also upload the essences to the terminal and therefore save our Traveler. The Traveler does have reservations, though, whether or not the Pathfinder will be on their side when they meet him. He says that this will give them all a chance for a fresh start, and the Warden asks if the Traveler trusts him. Leaving for the tram, the Traveler finds that familiar situation in that she needs to power the tram up before she's able to use it. Powering up both generators and fighting off numerous orphans, including another...
The Pathfinder, isn't he just him anyways? Isn't he the Warden? We have to get through this. My brain is so mush when it comes to this game's plot. Like, at the very end of the game, you think you know everything. Well, who the fuck is his consciousness? Let's watch this.
The massive one. The Traveler restores power to the tram and returns to it. On the tram, she rides it all the way to the outskirts. However, the tram only takes her so far, and she'll have to go the rest of the way on foot. Once again, using the anti-gravity boots to traverse the broken buildings, the Traveler makes it to the area where the Abbey is. She mentions the anomaly being strong here. This Abbey is conveniently called the Church of the Last Days. Approaching the church, the Traveler hears a voice from within, one that did not come from the essences. It speaks of this being their place of ordeal, and of the Traveler being another deceiver, another spawn. Approaching the door to the Abbey, of course it's locked and requires a fancy
I think that's what that is
puzzle to be
too,
solved
yeah.
before gaining entry. Scouring the area, including the cemetery for the additional parts of the puzzle, the Traveler constantly hears the voice, challenging them why they are there, their purpose, and that they've been deceived. Moving into the catacombs, the Traveler sees hallucinations of people worshipping the change, seeing it as a divine act of God. She also suffers hallucinations of other Travelers too. Having collected all three parts of the puzzle, the Traveler places them in the right order and enters the church.
I need this Traveler. Back off, or I'll fire. We feel the fire.
Fighting what remains of Mother Eliza, along with all the orphans she can summon, the Traveler ultimately defeats her. She says that she will be with her God now and that she will not be afraid, and she then dies. The Traveler then approaches the figure slumped in front of the altar. Having now found the Pathfinder with him seemingly dead, she is shocked to find the Warden's designation on the Pathfinder's suit. Attempting to salvage the data, his last target was indeed Veronica Kaminsky. Sitting down next to the Pathfinder, the Traveler finds a message within the data.
This is a warning. I am leaving because I no longer believe in the validity.
Is this not the Warden? I mean, it has the same designation as the Warden. I'm assuming he jumped out of this body and went into the other one because his other body is kind of being replaced repeatedly. It was kind of like failing him and he had to like keep adding to himself to stay alive to figure out a way to save Veronica. I think that's what that is. It sounds like the same voice too, yeah.
Maybe it is to my own misfortune that I got close to people. But when I did, I discovered what they really were. And so, I don't think our work helps them become a better being. They are perfect now, in their imperfection. Full of hope, unyielding, bright, and deciding their own fate. That's why I won't let them be put together into the cogs of a machine that dehumanizes them. And above all, I can't let anyone else take her.
That is...
For
she was the only one who saw one of them in me, a human being. So, Veronica... Aren't we fucking playing... This is such a weird... That's the Warden. There's no reason that that's not the Warden.
Who saw one of them in me. Fortunately, I believe I have found a way to stop it all. No more extractions. No more awakenings. But for those who are still there, if somehow you are there, do not follow. Don't trust in the collective. All that matters to them is their own hunger.
You just wanted to protect people. Protect her. That's all there is to it.
Leaving with the Pathfinder via the tram and heading back to the terminal, the traveller finds a bloody sight. Calling out for the Warden, she experiences another painful attack from the Essences. Going to confront the Warden, the traveller sees a door with Lazarus written on it, and she needs to learn what's behind it, so finding a key to the locked police station, she heads in there. Throughout her short time in the police station, she constantly hears the voice of Veronica. But how? Veronica speaks of how dark it is. She is also shocked to see the cells there locked and filled with predecessors, but why would the Warden do this to them? Powering up the door, the traveller enters the room and finds the torso of Veronica wired up to a machine. Grabbing her and ripping her away from the machine, the traveller then collapses and the Warden runs in, furious.
What? What have you done? Just when I thought we were actually beginning to accomplish something. Just when you were starting to be complete. You have ruined everything. You...
We beat the game. We saw this. We saw everything.
Monster! It's you who made me this! Why? Why did you make me like this?
Because she would never give up.
What?
She would try to save humanity at all costs. And so, you were to be what is left of it. Because her essence, no, her soul, would have lived on in you.
You dare to call this living? I don't even know who I am.
You are not her.
And The location? Was it all a lie?
You and your vocation. Did you ever really think you were saving any of them? I just needed something to replace the damage in her memory matrix. So I did it with a Traveler's behavioral core and I filled the gaps with what I once was. I knew she would change, yes, but I still thought she'd stay herself. Oh, how wrong I was. Instead, I was left with you. The very thing I once refused to be.
Why? Why didn't you tell me who I am? Who I once was?
I thought I was giving you the most human of gifts. I imagined you would wake up without what bound you in the past. That you would be a new person in this new future, this new chapter, and you would make it your own, that you would be free. And instead, you chose to serve. But you do serve well. And so I still have a chance to start all over.
The Pathfinder, who remember is the Warden, wakes up and he opens a rift in order to go and fix things. Stepping through the rift and going after him, he's at the city's old clock tower. It's been completely ripped apart thanks to the time disturbance. Using the anti-gravity boots, she ascends and reaches the top of the clock tower where she prepares to confront the Pathfinder. She finds Veronica there and the Traveler tells her that she cannot trust the Pathfinder, that his plan to save humanity is all a lie, and that he only cares about saving her. She tells Veronica that she's seen what he will do to her, and that she should just let go. Veronica says that he told her that the Traveler would come for him as punishment from the Collective for his disobedience. The Traveler then shouts that she is not of the Collective. She tells Veronica that she...
So the Collective is real. But this Warden guy basically went off and did his own thing because he was sentimental about a woman. Essentially is what was going on with this whole game. So the Collective is a real legitimate thing. It wasn't just some fabricated nonsense. I have no clue. I think that's the case here. I do think. So whatever the fuck we came from, whatever we had with the purpose and everything, that was legit, but he abandoned it. He wasn't a part of it anymore. He was gaslighting her too. I guess we're going to see. There's a lot more here, but we're not going to watch the whole video. Maybe, we'll see.
Is in fact her. That's right, Veronica's essence has been inside the Traveler.
Because the whole thing, he was saying, like, do you think they're living on past this? Do you think you're actually doing them a favor when you pull them out of the past and save their consciousness and then upload them in a machine? Like, that's not very human, right? That's not even living. You have to give them a chance and let them live their life. But then, ironically enough, what do you think he was doing? He literally had her hooked up on life support in a back room, which, again, I'm assuming he was trying to wipe this character's memory to have her put back into it or something. Some shit like that. That's the part I don't really get.
Time. The Pathfinder then arrives, clearly aggrieved at the Traveler, shouting that she's not Veronica. He then transports them to various areas. Blinded by his obsession with Veronica, he refuses to see the flaw in his plan. They face off, and despite him being very strong, the Pathfinder is eventually defeated.
Anime. Skip. Okay, endings. Here we go.
The wounded Pathfinder, he begs the Traveler to at least let him try, and that there is still hope for them all, to which she replies that she cannot. He asks the Traveler to forgive him. Veronica shows up and the Traveler says that it's best for this to end now, and that what he is going to do there will not save humanity. Veronica then says that she's fine with that, much to the surprise of the Traveler. Veronica elaborates and says that they can't save humanity in this timeline, but that there are other possibilities. She says that she believes the Traveler when she says that she is her, but that she doesn't want to give up now. Not when they can just try again. She says that the Pathfinder is a friend who wants to help her, with the Traveler saying that he is poison. Veronica then addresses the Traveler as Veronica in an attempt to reach her. She says that she wants to have a future, whatever that future may be. Telling Veronica that her future is simply to suffer, she responds that without that future, they don't even have a flicker of hope. The Traveler now has a choice. In ending A, the Traveler pulls the trigger and shoots the Pathfinder, killing him. A distraught Veronica asks why the Traveler would even care since she is her past, that she could just go away and be free, to which the Traveler responds that she is free. Picking up the Pathfinder's relic, the Traveler opens up a rift with it. The fate of humanity has essentially been sealed at this point. Humans had run out of time, essentially, and it's best to just live with that fact. The Traveler then sends Veronica through the rift and to Edward's apartment. She embraces him, saying she didn't want to be alone. She is experiencing early symptoms of the change, such as loss of vision, and the game fades to black.
That's pretty fucking cursed. That is pretty cursed, but... So, ending A, you kill the Warden, the Pathfinder, and he can no longer go back in time and basically try and rewrite history with Veronica to make her whole, essentially. His whole thing, though, it's a corrupted, like, she thinks she's saving humanity, but he wants her for himself type of deal. So you either kill him, and she's allowed to go back in time and basically let humanity die without the whole reversal thing. Or you let the Warden take her back in time, and she still gets sick again, and then he's like, well, we'll try again later. And then he goes through a different time loop, and then finds her again, tries it again, time loop, tries again. So it's really just... Both endings are CBT. There's no winning here. She went back with the illness. Yeah. I guess she just got infected somewhere. Steelworks, wherever she was. There's only one... Oh, there's a less fucked up ending? Is there really?
Are set. In ending B, the Traveler opts to not shoot the Pathfinder. As a result, Veronica hands the Pathfinder his relic, and he opens up a rift, sending them both back to try again. When he wakes up, though, Veronica is experiencing early symptoms of the change. The Pathfinder is devastated and says that he won't let her go out like this. With no other option and her time running out, he extracts her essence and as a result, destroys that hope of a future that Veronica talked about. As she fades away, the Pathfinder promises to fix this. So yeah, those two endings are pretty bleak, and neither of them are good endings. There is a third secret ending, which is achieved through New Game Plus, but we'll cover that one at the end of the video.
Let's go watch that right now. So the New Game Plus ending, I'm assuming it's the Warden?
Now we'll dive into the part of the lore that I will admit confused the hell out of me the first time I played the game.
You're telling
the
me.
Warden, aka the Visitor, the Pathfinder, and the Asset. Here goes. As we found out late game, the Warden is the Pathfinder, the mysterious cape-wearing individual that just randomly shows up after the first attempt at carrying out an ascendance. His job is to maintain the tools and the equipment used by the Collective. He was initially sent as a traveller himself, and then he started calling himself the Pathfinder after he became disillusioned with the Collective and because he became obsessed with humanity and his target, Veronica. The Warden would leave plenty of notes, travelogues around, which gave us a glimpse into his character. One of the earlier notes speaks of a longing for something, to know the cold and then the warmth as a result. He speaks of not growing near. This shows us the first part of him learning about humanity and softening towards it. That humanity itself, along with how they were created, is actually quite delightful, and it does show some resentment towards his own being.
Degrading simultaneously with their body, in tandem, as it were, until finally, when the moment of the end comes, it can be soft and soothing, anesthetized and assuaged by the chemistry of their own decaying mind. Beautiful design. Very inspiring. What awaits me is the cold cage of my own mechanism, which restrains me more and more. And then, mindlessness, I guess.
He also resented the Collective too, even denouncing them. We see more of this shortly after extracting the second essence, the one belonging to Artur, as the Warden is looking at the things that humans enjoy, such as playing piano and loving art, with him describing these things as non-essential for the survival of humanity, but are things that they nonetheless enjoy, giving them their humanity. As we saw, the Warden had saved what he could of Veronica's body and had her hooked up to a machine as part of the Lazarus Protocol. Since his target for extraction was Veronica, he would search the steelworks for her, and that is when he was encountered by Gabriel and captured by the military. This is why the Visitor only wanted to speak with Veronica as she was his target. This was his vocation and nothing else mattered.
So what exactly do you want from me?
I wanted to save you. When I found out you were my next target, I knew I would not be able to do it.
What's the point of saving me if we can't help anyone else?
We cannot. Here and now. But what I learned about you is that you are relentless.
So what's your plan then?
My plan was to keep you safe. And hope you will find a way.
Hope. That's it?
That's another thing I learned from you.
But as she talked to him more and more, he became infatuated with her. As a result, he wanted nothing else other than to find a way to preserve Veronica. His idea was to save Veronica by awakening a traveler and essentially uploading Veronica's essence into them. But
I said the same thing. Okay, he's a freak. I get it. Okay, he's a freak. How did you manage to move out? You just need more space, saved up money, be able to pay rent, stuff like that. Let's keep watching this.
Veronica had gaps in her memory matrix, and the Warden used the essences that our traveler had collected in order to fill those gaps, along with what he once was. He wanted Veronica to rise from the dead like Lazarus, hence the name of the project. Due to his manipulation of time, he speaks of his cognitive processes getting tangled up and details becoming blurry. He considers that time has affected his mind because whoever created him did not mean for him to be alive this long. He would seemingly get around this by sending his thoughts to himself in the future. He mentions that at the time of the game's events, over 300 travelers had been awakened and had succumbed to his attempts to revive Veronica.
Jesus.
But how did he stay alive? Well, he would use the empty bodies of previous travelers and their parts in order to extend his own lifespan. What he didn't bank on though was the awakening or activation of ND3576, our traveler, and he speaks about this.
Anticipated in my plans. She awoke on her own. By some miracle, the Rev Traveler launch protocol was triggered, and before I knew what was going on, she was already sitting there, connected to the terminal. I know I promised myself that I couldn't intervene anymore. But if I didn't get her out of there, she would fry. Why doesn't she remember anything? I have to wait. I have to keep my distance. I have to keep quiet.
As you'll have heard there, he was also confused as to why she didn't remember anything. And this could also be why when she arrived in New Dawn, the Traveler did not have a set target straight away. He was encouraged by the fact that the predecessors started to show signs of real human reactions to situations such as struggling, panicking, and crying. But then when the process resets and a new traveler is awakened, they no longer react. He thinks that this is Veronica trying to hide. As for why the terminal kept failing, well, it's certainly possible that the Warden tampered with it in order to prevent the Traveller from completing her own vocation, and so she would instead be directed to help the Warden complete his instead, which was the revival of Veronica. One thing we need to clear up is this scene here after the Pathfinder awakens. In it, the Pathfinder is speaking to Veronica on the phone and says that another of him has appeared in the same timeline. Another Traveller. I know it's all very confusing. The Pathfinder says in this call that this person will want to replace him and continue the vocation. He says that all he can do is switch himself off to give them a bit more time, which is why, at the church, he's completely switched off. He told Veronica not to trust any of them because, unlike him in sparing her, they'll simply follow the vocation and extract her. And this is why Veronica runs away when seeing the Traveller. As we saw, the Traveller tore Veronica's body away from the Lazarus device, and this action effectively ended the Warden's initial plan to awaken her the way he had been. He had to come up with another solution, and this was him going to the clock tower. He planned to reverse this to stop it all before it happens by taking her to the future where their technology was fully functional and they could be together forever.
Okay. So I think this is the
As
New Game
mentioned
Plus
when covering
ending.
the endings, there's a secret ending which is only achievable through completing a New Game Plus run. This one is titled the Begin Anew ending, and in it, the Pathfinder tells Veronica that maybe she'll have more hope for a better future with the Traveller. The Traveller starts to remember that all this happened before, which was of course one of the two previous endings. After using the tool to open the rift, the Traveller and Veronica step through the rift, and afterwards, the Traveller emerges from the pod, just like the one she arrived in, and offers her hand. This likely indicates that Veronica and the Traveller can at least try and save humanity. That's what I garnered from this ending. Anyway, let me know your theories on this one in the comments below.
So that's the more hopeful one.
That's it for the story of...
Okay, so TLDR, we still don't know the virus. I think he had a part here, the change. Let's just see this.
We learn in the game that the strange disease, this virus, was dubbed the Change. When one would become infected, they would suffer from fever, chills, fainting, hallucinations, and they would also begin to lose their sight. They would then develop skin lesions and secrete a thick fluid that researchers believed was a way for these bodies to successfully merge together. Zibbert, on the other hand, was simply baffled, even considering that this virus may even be from another world entirely.
I have never encountered anything like this before. The disease seems so strange that it even escapes standard classification. All the information we gathered during the early analysis seemed to indicate that it is a virus, but it doesn't act like one at all. We don't know how it transmits. We don't know how it mutates. It's as if it came from a world with different biological laws, or was brought rather. He must be the answer.
When the infected subjects would be taken to Unity Hospital, they'd found that when they were operating on them, their organs would continuously shift and merge, making such procedures extremely difficult. As we saw in the hospital, the biomass has a beating heart too, keeping this biomass alive. Turns out though that even the collective itself knows very little about the change.
We don't know where it came from. What we do know is what kind of world it left behind.
Did you read any research on the topic?
None of which have yielded answers about what the change actually is.
They didn't have much time.
Perhaps they were asking the wrong questions. Perhaps this mystery was not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced.
What are you talking about?
It seems to me that the nature of the change cannot be investigated in a conventional way. It is too ephemeral and fleeting in its essence.
You think it's something beyond ordinary understanding?
I doubt, therefore I am. Am I not?
What the Warden is talking about here is a philosophical statement by Descartes, which speaks about a method of doubt. The act of doubting one's existence proves the existence of a thinking entity, which is of course the self.
I've been struggling to find a proper trimmer for years.
So, well, I mean, that still doesn't really... Hang on. So we don't. So this game still poses a shit ton of questions, which will give you no answers. What I gathered from this game is that we came from the collective. We were sent by this unknown great group of God knows what in time to procure the memories of very specific people. But it's been a very, very long time since any of this had happened, right? We woke up a lot later than we should have. And we were basically running on nonsense, essentially. It was irrelevant, pointless dribble, from what we know. Because maybe you upload these people and it does something with that, but we would never know because the guy sabotaged the machine. And we find the warden, the very first guy who paved the way for everyone else. And in his journey with the collective, he figured out that this isn't really the way to do it, and he grew close to one of his targets. He cared for his target. And he ripped away from the collective, he went his own route, and over the years there were other people who would join, other travelers who would come through. And he would basically take them and use their bodies to extend his own life in the hopes of getting Veronica back, his target. Because she, in the timeline, was long dead, and where he is now, I guess he was still working on a way to try and bring her back properly. And so, under the guise of still working with the collective, he says, okay, great, you know, now you're here, and you got to go do this stuff. But he sends us off on like a wild goose chase to basically help himself. You know, bring the pieces back together to resurrect Veronica. So this whole game is you being led on by some old nonsensical dribble that, for all we know, doesn't exist anymore. The collective, like, we don't know if that's even a thing at this point. And we end up in somebody else's, like, love story. Yeah, almost. Is that really it? And we don't know what the change is. Humanity is completely fucking boned. Although there is that hopeful ending where you can go off through a portal with her, I suppose. That's probably the canon ending. I think that's the game then. If I'm not completely brain damaged, which I'm thoroughly brain damaged. Joe, thank you, man, for the 9 months. It is a little bit frustrating to not actually have more questions answered than anything. I think they would do a sequel and give you more about the collective and more about the virus. Does he have anything about the collective? Does he say anything about the collective? Well, he used to work for them, right? He does talk a little bit about the collective if you sit there in his quarters and you ask him questions. He does say a few things. It's not that it's bad to not explain everything, but it leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth where you're like, man, did I really wait the entire game for nothing? But why are we Veronica's essence, and since when? I don't think we were her essence. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was trying to upload her essence into our body. And he basically, he like shut down the machine so we couldn't upload people into it. And what he planned on doing is when our body was like completely fucked up, he would upload her consciousness into ours and it would take over. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's what that was. If I'm not mistaken. And then he would have her back and they could try and... He can either live out his little fantasy with her or she could go save humanity or whatever, right? Like, when she was saying... When your main character is telling Veronica, like, he's a poison, you don't want this, trust me, it's bad. That's because he was doing it for him, not for humanity. So he had no interest in resurrecting humanity. He says whatever happened to them, that's it. And he basically wanted to just live his life with this woman. We could check the, what was it, the vocation? Vocation. Okay, let's look at the vocation part here.
In Albion, no matter where you go or...
What is this? It's not RuneScape! Here we go. The vocation. One sec.
Before we dive into what the vocation is, let's quickly look at what the collective is. It's certainly possible that the collective came about as a direct result of what happened at the steelworks. This disease appears, although not confirmed, to have wiped out humanity, and the collective is a way of preserving humanity. Kind of like an evolutionary hive mind, but one that happened after the change had been completed.
Well, although the change seems cruel and painful.
Yeah, you know what's so weird? How are we from a different timeline, though? How the fuck did any of this come to be? One sec. Let's hang on.
It is what led to the collective origin in the finale.
Okay.
Like a hideous cocoon from which the new face of the human race blossomed. But those who never managed to come together in time.
They became orphans.
Yes, the orphans.
The Warden states through conversation that the collective has different roles for different personnel, I guess you could call them. He mentions Leviathans, Praetorians, Trackers, Wardens, and Travelers. These individuals are the emissaries of the collective, and they travel back through time to the point the world ended. The decision on what type of unit to wake and send is based on the current need of the vocation.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, the vocation is humanity that was left, who developed a way to time travel and go back in time to try and save the past. Thank you. So the collective, as he's saying, spawned from the change kind of dooming humanity. How they survived, where they survived, are they from Poland? Are they English people? Are they Ugandan special forces? I don't know.
For example, if something needs fixing, they'll send a warden instead of a traveller. Some would be given the task of paving the path for successors, and this would be setting up equipment and outposts, as well as setting up anti-gravity paths between ruined buildings. But
so we are people from the future. Basically, if you have a linear timeline, right? One path that goes from 1980 to 90 to 2000, yada, 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 yada. The collective is in that timeline, but in a much farther future. And so all we're seeing is the events of the past. All of this is gone, it's done, it's finished. This guy is stuck in the past. He's stuck in his own little bubble. And we don't know what humanity looks like. We don't know what any of these people look like in the future. All we know is their technology seems to be so advanced that they can literally put on futuristic fucking time diving suits and go back in time and do this shit to people. Let's just keep watching, though. How does the collective know the travelers will achieve their goal if they are not continuously being made? Because they keep uploading them to the collective. They keep uploading them through the machine, through the Ascendance program. I guess to save them, to preserve people from the past, to build a brighter future. I'm still assuming that's what that is, but the Warden believed that it wasn't really saving them if they're kind of living in a machine. It's not life, right? It's the collective evolved change. No, why would that be? How could you evolve as the change? Did it? How did the change evolve to that point, though? What? I thought it was just people who escaped it. How did the change... How could that ever work in creating something like this? I think what brought forth the travelers and the vocation was the change, but it's not the change itself. From one fucked up thing spawned another, right?
Vocation. A vocation is defined as a person's employment or main occupation. So the vocation is essentially the mission of the traveller, their purpose. The traveller's vocation requires the essences of selected targets who are needed by the collective. And let's look at a few of these targets. A young boy called Marcel Marzek would go missing despite showing no symptoms of the change. We can find Marcel's essence in a toy store inside the station, and it's in the phylactery of another traveller designated 4335. His mother Lydia's essence, on the other hand, is found on Traveller 2187. As a side note, Lydia's husband and Marcel's father was the senior officer and was present at the steelworks who, remember, helped hide the visitor from the military. As for Officer Marzek's fate, During the journey through the church, we can find a letter which says that a traveller had arrived in order to extract him. After young Marcel's essence was extracted, his body was examined by the coroner and he was perplexed, as not only did he have the telltale signs of cranial trauma from the extraction process, but he also wasn't decomposing. Rigor mortis was not happening either. It's as if the extraction process had frozen his body in time. The entire family had been chosen by the collective to ascend, but sadly, none of them were able to, as these 3 essences never uploaded or ascended to become part of the collective, as all of the travelers carrying them died. Essences that are stuck inside a fallen traveler slowly become corrupt.
It was the Observer guy. It was the Observer dude. This is the very end of the game where you can pick up a corrupted essence, and it was the main character from Observer, which was a game about you being a investigator who would basically dive into the minds of people and figure out how to solve crimes that way after they were dead. So that was a cool little Easter egg. Draven, thank you, man. Good day, Paparino Hero, to drop off a monthly sub with some spicy news. I got an offer for my first amateur MMA match. That's awesome, bro. That's crazy. Hey, have fun with that, man. You know, if you want it, go for it, brother. Next time I see you, you may have a few less teeth, but you know what? That's the dream. Hey, remember us small folk when you're big, dude. Thank you, buddy. I believe he was looking for his son. It was an old game, though, that we played. Played that a long time ago. Let's keep doing this, though.
Phylacteries, while sturdy and excellent at protecting the essences, are only containers used to carry them. They cannot serve as permanent residents. The essences want to be in constant wandering. Transmigration, if you will. And without their carrier's energy, they fall apart. They become corrupted.
Corrupted?
Yes. By remaining in suspension in the stasis of the phylactery, the essences slowly lose their integrity.
But why? Aren't they eternal?
What is not in motion dies. Everything longs for change.
Are they dangerous?
To us travelers, I don't know.
As we saw, essences can be dangerous, as if kept inside the phylactery for too long, that person's essence will try to take over the traveller. This is indicated by hearing the voices of the essence.
The one always alone.
This will then culminate in the traveller going mad after losing their sanity. The predecessor that was housing Marcel's essence in his phylactery actually had this happen to him, and Marcel began to take over. It would get more pronounced as 2187 began to speak in a more childlike manner, and this happened up until the point that Marcel completely took over.
And then he ran to the toy store.
I did a standard cognitive abilities trial on myself. The results are, I miss her. At first, this new armor was cool and all. And it was fun to shoot monsters, but it's been so long. And I've become very lonely inside. She would know how to make it fun again. I miss her a lot. My phylactery has malfunctioned. I have to regain failure. Initiating emergency.
Finally! Radio not. Here I come.
This does a good job of explaining why 2187 ended up in a toy shop. It was Marcel, and he was the one drawing on the walls in the station too. If you look closely at the traveller that was on the train, the one that was carrying Lydia's essence, there appears to be a toy soldier in the traveller's hand, which he may have picked up from Marcel after Lydia took over. But let's now look at fate. No matter what variation of events take place, people that have not been chosen by the collective to be extracted, well, their fate is always set no matter what. So Angela running out of the bunker because it was overrun leads her to exactly the same fate as her taking off running away from the traveller and Edvard's ramblings here. Kind of like a final destination kind of deal. You can't escape your fate unless you've been chosen. I hope that makes sense. In terms of Veronica, as we saw through the 2 standard endings, her fate was not able to be changed, as in both of those outcomes, she would be infected by the change, and this was regardless of what happened. But what is the Terminal? Well, according to a note left by the Warden, it's technology of the Collective that draws its power from the fading remnants of human energy sources. The Warden believes that these energy sources would have died out long ago, if not for the force of the anomalies, which they also refer to as oddities. In addition, the Warden thinks the Collective's actions in using the Terminal also birthed these anomalies.
And thus, the oddities. They wouldn't have existed without us, and we without them. This issue resembles the chicken or the egg question.
The causality dilemma.
Yes. Changes in the fabric of reality allow us to fulfill the vocation. But where did they come from?
The Terminal is also choosing new targets for extraction, despite almost being wrecked. And the Warden is slightly intrigued by how the Terminal selects its targets, with there being a key to the targets. They aren't just random. He thinks it is trying to draw their attention to something, but what that is never really explained.
It could be that the change evolved into the Collective, which wants to capture all the people it couldn't at the time, so it sends travelers to the past. Wait, so you're telling me you think the change evolved into what that is? People in suits? Almost like an evolutionary thing where, like, it was a resetting of time? That as the world kind of progressed and everything died out, new life was born from that? That sounds... smoking some crack. This is such a weird... I don't think the questions I have been answered. Honestly. Like, does anyone here have any other ideas as to what's going on? I think whatever we just watched, and thinking back, what I still believe is this entire game, you were basically lied to. Well, not really lied to. I guess that was still your mission, to just upload people to the mainframe, to the Ascendance program, and get them out of there. But it was thwarted by a guy who just wanted a girl back. Essentially. It gave you more questions than anything. Well, was the Collective... So who was... Well, he manipulates you into doing things for him instead of for yourself. But is the Collective still... We don't know what the Collective is, so there's no point in even asking a question about that, right? There's no point in thinking, like, what do these people want with the minds of others? Because we don't have that answer. Maybe that could be something. Well, they also did say the change kind of it was just there. They talked about, oh, it came from a different world, and then another guy was like, oh, well, maybe it was just here all along. Right? Maybe it was with us the entire time. Lazy writing. Hang on. CRONOS, The New Dawn. Story summary. You know, it's really strange because this game there was no ending to having people in your suit. I thought you'd be able to save certain people or do something. In the end, it kind of didn't matter at all. Time loop, time travel, time paradox, multiverse. This is a weird game. I still like it, but it's hard to put my finger on what exactly this whole thing was about. Like, perfectly. I do like this game, though. Does it matter the Collective wants is more people to the Collective, so maybe... Well, is the Collective... The Collective is a group. It's like a hive mind. But you had to be sent back in time from somewhere. So we're talking about like an actual civilization of human beings living in the future and thriving, and they keep plumbing the depths of their past to try and figure out this whole change thing. And of course, to extract the essences of certain people, which we don't know the reason for. Yeah, I'm not really sold on this game's narrative. I thought it was pretty, like, by the end of it, it seemed less of an overarching, like, save mankind, save this. It was just the greed of, like, one person in particular who kind of fell out with it and found faith in humanity and wanted to do more with one woman instead of serve his supposed purpose. That's basically the story. Right? Everything you thought you knew in the beginning was a complete, like, whoa, that doesn't matter right now. It was a company guy went rogue because he fell in love with a woman who was destined to die, and he couldn't cope with it, and he tried to use the company assets to get the woman back. That's exactly what it was. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That was it. And see, it takes like a nosedive in a completely different direction. Because I was really intrigued with the whole uploading thing and maybe saving people's consciousness from, like, fading away, right? Going back in time and pulling these people out of the past. And then it turns out we kind of get looped into someone else's problem, and then he uses us for that means to an end, right? Okay, so I don't think I really have to ask any more questions. I think that's it then. We don't know what the change is. How did we just... But wasn't there something about an anomaly in us waking up where all the other travelers had come through in the past and they've all been used up by the warden? And we were the anomaly who woke up? We were the anomaly who got sent back or something? It's a unique story for sure. For sure. There's a machine / collective creating these travelers and their equipment, and the warden fucked it all for love. Maybe he was right, though, in the end, that isn't really a way to live. If you're going to pull people into a machine and join the collective. So, like I said, well, what about how we're sent back? Who are we as an individual? Are we a blank slate kind of groomed into this? Like, it's our vocation, it's our calling. You know, we were bred for this. We know nothing else. Blind faith type of deal, right? Like, where does that come from? It's, again, there's a lot of... I like some of the story bits. I actually feel the warden stuff is a little bit meh, personally. I think I was, again, more intrigued with the idea that we'd go back in time and kind of pull individuals out, which they don't explain in detail as to what that's about. What do you mean clones? The plot twist was these clones for one? What do you mean clones in that? Well, there still is an overarching story. Oh, absolutely. It's just a guy kind of stuck in the past. Right? Like, the whole idea with the warden is that he hasn't moved on. He hasn't decided to fade away. He just keeps using up, you know, all these people who show up. Yeah, the NPCs, they're basically NPCs. There's nothing to them. They're blank slates. But I want to know more about them. And I think maybe that if they do a sequel on this, it may explain a bit more of that. I'm not sure. It'd be cool to see the future and where people came from. I think I'm just going to leave my score at the exact same thing. I'm still going to leave my score at like 7.5. I think it's like a 7.5. The NPCs get emotions during the job and become more aware. Well, they're more... They deal with people more. And so they learn to kind of grow beyond what they were taught, I suppose. If that makes sense. Like, if you're conditioned into a job, and all you know is, like, the decree, the rules, the law, what you were bred for, what you were made for, and then you kind of get to see what humanity's about. I don't really blame the warden for trying to, like, do something about that and growing attached to this woman. But at the end of the day, are you still, like, a person? Are you an individual who's been, like, put into this order and then sent back in time? Or are you born from a machine? Like, what is it? We don't know, and it hurts my head. I want to know. It hurts. I feel physically sick for not knowing. Interesting. Okay. The virus was always there in the steelworks. Maybe they found something. I don't think it just spawned from nothing. It would have come from something. I like this game. I do like this game, but it's a little frustrating mentally. I'm mentally frustrated. Let me... one sec. I'm looking at the comments right now. It is a pretty bleak game. I'll say that. Check the steelworks. We could do that. It's a very bleak game where I actually feel like even if you were to have something happen, I'm not sure if it would even matter. You know what I mean? Okay, let's do this.
Let's have a deeper look at what happened at the steelworks, where all this kicked off. Remember I mentioned Roman Barrica just now? Well, his two sons, Gabriel and Artur, ended up working at the steelworks too. Gabriel was a shift supervisor, but he was described as a leader, that he had an intimidating type of charisma, that even after the steelworks were quarantined, it even refused to leave the area despite being allowed to by the authorities. When the workers were quarantined at the steelworks, the workers would still turn to Gabriel for guidance. They were frustrated and confused that even after a month of being quarantined, they noticed that there were no doctors arriving, and that the only people arriving to help were the military. They weren't being told anything by the authorities, and they, along with Gabriel, knew that something sinister was happening. People on the outside, the families of the quarantine workers, weren't being told anything either, just that their loved ones would be home soon. But protests outside the steelworks were becoming more regular, despite the messaging that was urging the families of these workers to trust the soldiers to protect their loved ones. Any parcels sent to the quarantine from the families of the infected were inspected, with pretty much everything being confiscated and destroyed, and this even included innocent items such as photographs. Gabriel made demands, with the military keen to avoid an uprising, that they were permitted to search underneath the main furnace for the workers that had gone missing. He was permitted to take 2 volunteers with him, and they found the missing workers, but Gabriel saw something down there. He saw the visitor. Not long after this, under what was dubbed Project Seraphim, all workers at the plant were to be moved to an isolation zone, with the public being informed that the quarantine had reached a critical phase. A lab was also set up. At some point, Dr. Zibbert took over as the chief physician at the steelworks.
It just happened.
He would record his observations on the people in the isolation zone.
Even the those who survive the first stages of the disease. They merge with each other. It's as if their cells want to create some kind of direct symbiosis. No, it's more than that. It's kind of evolved metabiont. A biological being composed of other beings. Science knows of such cases. But amongst mosses, lichen, or fungi, not humans.
Researchers there began to become worried at just how many times the subjects would merge, along with the fact that there was no way to separate them once they'd merged. Naturally, since Gabriel came into contact with the visitor, people assumed that the visitor was the source of the disease, but this was not the case. They interrogated Gabriel, and they didn't hold back at all.
I've already told you. With a group of workers, we went underground under the main furnace to find the missing.
Cut the bullshit about the workers, Comrade Batika. Just answer the questions. What did you see there?
It was horrible. Their bodies, their skin, their limbs. It was as if something merged them with each other. Will this happen to all the infected?
Answer the questions, Batika. What else did you see?
There was something, some kind of figure wrapped in steel, as if wearing armor. He was talking to me.
What was he saying?
Bring her to me.
Meanwhile, the quarantined workers were leaderless. They had become very fed up and made a list of demands, stating that the conditions they were being held under were violating human and civil rights conventions. They demanded that Gabriel be freed from his cell and reinstated as shift supervisor. It's safe to say they didn't get what they'd requested. Then, as was written by one of his closest circle, Gabriel just vanished. Some people said that he'd been taken to the hospital, others said that he'd been killed by the military. With Gabriel gone, the people that followed him just kind of lost hope. We'll follow Gabriel's journey in a bit, but let's now look at this disease.
So we watched this, but as I said, you know what this game kind of needs? Like you said earlier, it needs a sequel or a prequel. It needs another game to kind of go hand in hand with this, because you really just followed the story of humanity being doomed by we don't know what, and us being in the middle of some sort of like man misses his woman type of scenario, rather. Like, the endings of the game as well, though, they do feel hopeful, right? Two of them lead back to the same thing. Well, one of them leads to basically the guy, the warden, trying again because his woman dies, she gets infected. The other one is the warden is dead and they let the world fade away and die. Pretty miserable. The third ending is where you take Veronica and you go into the future to try and... Or the past, it's one of the two. Probably the past. To try and actually come up with a cure to save people. So you let the world die, let the guy try again, which is bullshit, because he's doing it for himself. He never cared to begin with. And the third one is you take her yourself and try and figure things out, which I think is the most hopeful of all of them, to be honest. Letting humanity kind of fade away would be something. Not a very hopeful ending for the game, though, but... Well, we watched the other ending. Yeah, we've seen the ending where you end up taking her and you try and start anew, but without him. She either goes with him and he gets greedy and he doesn't care, he wants to save her, or you go with her yourself and you try and make something of that, I suppose. And you don't already know if that's what's happening. Like, we're already back in time and there's obviously a future. Yeah, so you go back in time to try and save humanity? Well, we watched the third ending. Yeah, we saw it. There's 3 endings. There's 2 at the end of the base game, and there's 1 for New Game Plus. We saw the New Game Plus one. Unless that wasn't the New Game Plus one, where you go back in time with her. Is there a different one? What was the point of the cats? CRONOS cat ending? Yeah, there's only 3 endings. Okay, we had them. So what the fuck was the point of the... What was the point of the cats? There are no happy endings. You discover the true origins of the disease, the abnormalities, the guardian, and the drone you embody. That's what I was thinking too. Exactly, but maybe it isn't. Maybe humanity is not the collective. That's what you know what? That's literally what I was thinking. Maybe humanity wasn't saved, and clearly what is in the future is not humanity. But then what the fuck could it be? Is it just sending people back in time to try and, like, save people's consciousnesses to preserve humanity? This is similar to Soma. It feels a little, kinda. So here's an interesting thing. I'm confused with ending C, even though it probably is the best ending. Ending A is a loop, ending B is her body... Ending B is her being patient 0. Wait, what? Ending B is when she goes back in time, right? And she hugs Edward? And she's the first person who showed signs of the infection? Which we don't know how she got to begin with. As I understand, both endings A and B are parts of the loop. A is how you get Pathfinder Warden timeline completed, start of the Lazarus program. B is how the change is started. Veronica spreads disease, either by acquiring it from going through the rift unprotected or getting infected beforehand and showing symptoms after the rift. Problem is, both these events should happen simultaneously for the loop to exist. Number A, no Lazarus, and no ND3576 protagonist, no B, no change and no collective. It's such a weird game. So she just acquires a virus source. We made her the virus. She just acquires the virus. So technically, all of those endings are canon in a way. 2 are the loop. The other one is like, if you actually take, you take her away to a different timeline. That's why I say the Pathfinder or someone else brought the virus to begin this loop. Ah, this is so weird, man. Why would he bring the virus, though, if he cared about her? How does this even happen? My brain hurts. I'm gonna say... You know what? I'm gonna say this game is still 7. I'm gonna give this game a 7, or maybe a 7.5. Honestly, not intentionally. I just wish we knew a few more answers. I think it's a 7 to a 7.5. I'm actually not really a fan of the narrative. I feel like it's just leaving so many things open, or I'm just kind of a dumbass. It's a very hard game to follow. I'm not really a fan of time loops and all this other stuff. I've had a fair share of those in my lifetime that I've not really enjoyed. I feel as if the initial plot was insanely compelling, and as the story unfolded, I kind of knew nothing in like a semi-negative way. I really didn't expect the story to be just like this, to be honest. And that's my own thinking of it to begin with, but I want to know what this collective is. Is this some sort of like AI ran machine? Is it just spewing out people to kind of go back and populate it with humanity to try and save itself with people? Played against you this morning. Yeah, GG's, man. That was a while ago. You give it an 8? It's... I think I'm solid at a 7.5. I think I'm solid at a 7.5. I think maybe the narrative is a little bit over my head. I've tried to understand it. And again, we just beat the game today, so in hindsight, you know, given time, I'm probably going to revisit every game I've played, at least narratively. Not play it again, but it would be nice to visit this game in a different time. You know, having thought about it for a while. And maybe gone into more detail with other content. But I think as it stands right now, and my understanding with the story, is it's a 7.5. I'm going to say it's compelling, but it kind of like slaps you in the face. A little bit, at least for me. I think this game should get a sequel, or a prequel, or something. It deserves another game to kind of flesh out the rest of it. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe they explained everything, and again, it kind of went over my head, but like, you still have questions. Where's the change? Where's it from? What is the collective, right? Like, if it doomed humanity, how are these suits of armor being produced? It can't just be, source, I made it up. Like, if you write a game, if you write anything, it has to have some sort of reasoning behind it. Otherwise, it's dribble, right? And I'm sure they have a reason, but we just don't know. And that's compelling, and I want to know. So I really hope they do something with that. It gets your brain going, but if they never answer it, then maybe it wasn't written to begin with. Which is kind of my problem. The collective being born out of the change. How does that happen, though? How does that even happen? The collective was born out of the change. So how would you actually explain that, then? He was just horny the game. No, it's from a soulless like drone sent to do a collective robot AI thing's work, whatever it is, to figuring out that humanity's all not so bad, and you know, maybe not uploading them is a good idea, and maybe you can see the good in them. Yeah, interesting. No, those were the warden's words. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, what does that even mean, though? I'm going to say this. 7.5, I enjoyed the game. I think, final closing remarks. The best thing about this game was the initial intrigue to the story and the atmosphere. Those two things were very, very strong. You are an alien in an alien world, and you are told to extract people. For what purpose? We don't know. On top of that, the atmosphere is impeccable. So good. This game looked so good. This game's like... environments, like the contrast between some sort of futuristic-y suit of time traveling gear, whatever you look at this as, like a futuristic diving suit, walking through like very mundane 80s environments, like the steelworks or the apartment buildings. It's a really weird thing. And as it should be, you don't belong in that timeline, right? You really don't. And I really enjoyed that. I thought it was cool as shit. So the initial intrigue, top tier. The atmosphere throughout the whole game, top tier. Voice acting, top tier. I thought the voice acting was great. For a Polish company, I thought they would actually do... There is a Polish VO, I'm assuming, right? There's different languages. But the English stuff was really well directed. It was great. None of it felt like it had to be translated or anything. It was just good. It was really, really good. The atmosphere was as intriguing as Alien Isolation. Well, the atmosphere in this game was great. 100%. It was very mysterious. You felt very hopeless. You felt like you were literally stranded in time where the world ended, and that's exactly what happened. The gameplay was a little bit weak. I'm going to say it was in the vein of just something that was like a typical classic third-person survival game, right? There was no real movement mechanics. The shooting was very bare-bones basic. It almost felt like a framework where not much was kind of added to it. It was like, aim your gun, shoot your gun, charge your gun, that's it. If you want to juke an enemy, you have to walk out of the way or run out of the way, which I believe is what Dead Space 1 had anyways, so we didn't complain back then. Why do we complain now? Innovation, I guess. The sound design was excellent. You know, initially when you land and you start walking around the buildings and you hear the creaking and all that stuff and the sand, it's, again, the atmosphere of this game was top tier. But yeah, I would say for me, subjectively, the story at the end of it all was, I think, the weakest part. I don't think I really enjoyed it. I think I still have a ton of questions to kind of, like, hopefully get answered one day. But if they would do a sequel, I would play it. I would put the money down, I'd play it. I think this game is great, but it could have been a bit more, I think. A little bit better gameplay, a few more mechanics, maybe. And a little bit more of an explanation with some of the stuff in the story. So, 7.5 is where we are leaving Chronos: The New Dawn. I would say this is a game I do want to revisit thematically, like just watch more YouTube videos down the line, maybe reassess, you know, what I had said about the game and try and understand the narrative a bit better. Again, some of it kind of blew over my head a bit, but we get the gist of it, I think, ending here. Continuing a previously canceled game? What do you mean? Atmosphere for this game is fitting for what it was aiming for, but using timeline. I like the idea of time and going back in time to figure out how to save things, but I'm not really a fan of, like, time loops and all these different things. I feel like whenever you get into time loops, you open up, like, all of this bullshit possibilities where, oh, you just saved the world even though it ended, like, we can do anything we want, we can fix time. I think for the sake of this game, though, I don't think you can. Maybe with that New Game Plus ending where you take her into, like, the future or the past, whatever it was, and, you know, try and figure things out, but time is... Any sort of, like, multiverse time-related thing is a little bit hard to do, because it opens up way too many possibilities to kind of cheat the narrative. You know what I mean? We didn't do any of those. We never stopped any scary games. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna leave Chronos: The New Dawn at 7.5. You can keep opening up storylines and different scenarios and possibilities to keep the story going. That's true, but you can... That's true, but in a way I feel like it's just... It doesn't feel as concrete as I think I would like things. I don't know what game is up next, folks. We will decide that tomorrow. I'm actually... My head's been hurting all night. I'm most likely just going to go take a shower and go to bed. And I will be leaving here after this, actually. So that is it. YouTube, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate it. We're gonna revisit this game for sure. I want to say I'm satisfied, but I still feel a bit icky. I think I'm gonna be thinking about this game for a few days to try and like flush it out of my brain and rationalize things and try and understand it a bit better. But if they come out with a sequel, I'd play it. All right, folks. 7.5, that's where we're at on Chronos The New Dawn. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. And we will be on tomorrow for the next horror game. I don't know what it is yet, but we will decide in the morning. So with that being said, YouTube, take care. Have a great night. And peace, peace.